Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at some Guild Wars 2 news. And it's Tuesday, so there's always something new for Guild Wars 2. And they made a post about gem store stuff and I was a little bit sad. I was like, ugh, nothing really huge, no trailer or anything. So I was like, ugh, maybe next week. But soon after I had that thought, they posted another post that is labeled Balance Updates, the Herald's Near Future, and PvP League Season 13. Straight from the title, we get more balance, probably to the whole entire class lineup, but in specific, the Herald seems to be getting a nice touch-up, which I wasn't expecting the Herald to. Just from previous updates and how community reaction has gone, I was expecting the Renegade. And for those of you who don't know, the Herald is the Heart of Thorns elite specialization for the Revenant. So I thought that I would just pretty much cover most of what this article says, because they actually give us some little sneak peeks as to what is coming. First off, PvP League Season 13 returns with duo queues for every single rank. It used to be that you couldn't duo queue past like Platinum 2 or something. I'm not too sure about that, but I heard it was like Platinum 2. So duo queues are back for everyone, so that'll be nice. Just a little update, but there's probably other things like baked underneath, but more PvP updates I hope soon to come, because PvP needs a little bit of love. But other than that, the rest of the post is pretty much focused on the Herald Elite Specialization changes. And we have a little sneak peek image of another change with the Herald, and it's that it can be used underwater, which is wonderful. When they did the underwater pass, I was like, why isn't Herald in the underwater section? But I guess they've finally made it possible with the upcoming patch, which is in a week. So I'm just going to pretty much read verbatim the whole entire post. So let's begin. Revenants were introduced with Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns to aid in the skirmishes and battles against the Elder Dragon Mordremoth. They brought their ability to invoke the power of the legendary dragon Glint to the fray. Glint is an iconic Guild Wars 1 character, so do some lore research on her if you are interested in friendly dragons. And is the mother of Aurene, our cute, precious bean who has recently turned into a hormonal teenager. With the next balance update, we're making a bunch of changes to the specialization line to bring Herald up to date. Glint undoubtedly foresaw this. Just gotta love that Guild Wars 2 humor. First, each of the existing facet skills has had its corresponding active skill labeled as a consume skill. This is to help differentiate the two, and it allows for a bit more variation in some traits. Now, I'm not personally aware, like off the top of my head, of traits interacting with consume skills, so it might be new. This could just be limited to the Herald Specialization, but it might be packed into maybe Invocation? I don't know. I'm a little confused with this, but I'm excited to see how this plays in with traits. While Glint may have bided her time in the distant past, we wanted to push more impactful gameplay to this specialization and began with the F2 ability Facet of Nature. Previously, this facet would grant nearby allies an increase to their outgoing boon duration. Soon it will instead grant allies prowess based on that legend that you invoke. So this was a very passive play style and was definitely an energy upkeep where you felt bad if you weren't using it. Like, it was pretty much just on all the time. And the active, while it gave you a wide array of boons, it didn't feel super impactful. So they've changed it to something that appears to be a bit more engaging. So, for example, embodying King Jalis Ironhammer will reduce the damage each of your allies receive. So this is a bit more defensive, of course, protecting your allies. If you're channeling the vicious nature of Shiro Tagachi, allies around you will steal health from enemies they strike. Once again, more aggressive. Should you decide to invoke a different legend while the facet of nature is active, the boost you grant to your allies will change with you, allowing you to adjust on the fly. So this just means that they're streamlining it to make it a bit easier for revenants to use, which is good because they could have just overlooked this and made it where it turns off and you have to reapply it once you swap legends. So that's nice to know. Furthermore, the consume skill, True Nature, I'm guessing this is the flip over of the F2, also changes with the legend you are channeling. Each legend's True Nature skill sticks with their theme, but does so in a different fashion from the facet. So this is going to be quite interesting. Right off the bat, using the True Nature of the legendary dwarf will grant each of your nearby allies several stacks of stability, maintaining defense, but against crowd control instead of damage. Once again, Jealous is about keeping everyone up, not in terms of health, but in terms of being brawlers, a bit more tanky. For the legendary assassin, the F2 skill will strip nearby enemies of their boons, maintaining the aggressive and offensive playstyle. Pretty sure that's for Shiro Tagachi, the legendary assassin. Now we move on to some traits, and this is where we get to have a little bit more theorizing. Well, I'll go more into theorizing after I read everything. In revamping the Herald traits, we themed it more closely to the compassion of Glint, who sought to shield humanity from the Elder Dragons and sacrificed herself toward that end. This left us with 3 distinct themes, and I'm just gonna say, as someone who is a fan of like really just like superficial themes of like titles and just stuff that doesn't hold meaning, but it's just, for me, it's satisfying to have. So their first theme is assisting humanity. The second one is unifying a group of champions. And the third one is channeling her gift of prophecy. So right off the bat, it seems that the first 2 lines appear to be a bit more focused around group play, and the third line a bit more focused around improving yourself, possibly. And it goes on to say, these themes are going to be embodied in the specialization trait line through lending magical aid to allies with healing and boons, cool, to focusing on the facets of Glint and enhancing their powers of hers, also amazing, and turning inward and channeling potency to yourself. So I'm guessing I was correct. They continue to spoil us by giving us a little sneak peek at some traits. So first off, we have elevated compassion. Heal other allies when you grant them a boon. So this just seems like possibly overpowered, depending on the healing coefficients and everything. So I'm guessing if it's what I'm wondering is if this is about applying a boon, but not necessarily reapplying a boon. You see what I'm saying? Like, you might have regen already on someone, but if you pulse out more regen, does that count as you granting them a boon? Maybe. We're gonna have to see. But it sounds a bit more supportive. Next up, we have core value. Improve the active effects of your True Nature, your F2 ability. It says this trait strengthens the effect of your F2 consume skill, making your choice of which legend to channel when activating this skill more meaningful, which I'm really glad to see because the current version of the F2 is quite lackluster when you use it. They continue, for example, using True Nature as Shiro Tagachi will, with core value, active strips a greater number of boons from nearby enemies. So it's pretty much just enhancing them. Maybe with Jealous it's even more stacks of stability or possible barrier, because I've noticed that Jealous has incorporated some barrier in other traits. And lastly, we have hardening persistence, which is actually currently in the game, which is a minor trait. I believe these all are minor traits, so it's going to be interesting. But for hardening persistence, gain damage reduction based on your active energy upkeep, and your shield abilities now remove conditions. And I've been on the forums and I've heard that many heralds want the shield to remove conditions. So there you go, if you were someone who really wants that. But I also will say Ventari already had really nice Condi clear. But they continue to say, this trait was previously in the Adept tier and is now a master tier option. Okay, so these actually might be masters. Its toughness has been replaced with the percentile damage reduction, and it now improves your shield abilities so that they remove conditions. Great. And then finally, you can now channel Glint underwater. Amazing. Fantastic. Superb. So those are all the changes. Let's just like quickly, I don't know, let's like quickly theorize. So we already have Jalis and Shiro's active F2 abilities. I'm wondering when it's going to be for Ventari. Would it just be like passive regeneration? Would that be the boon duration? Or maybe Glint still holds that passive of, if you use your F2 ability, your fast of nature, maybe for Glint it will increase concentration. Maybe for Ventari it'll increase healing power. So that'd be interesting. Probably for the active, and then Malik's maybe condition damage. But for the actives, I can see Ventari obviously healing, but it'd be also interesting if it applied Alacrity as well. Shiro, probably a lot of conditions, probably Torment, and maybe some burning or confusion. And then for Glint, maybe just some, I don't know what Glint could do. That one's kind of up in the air for me. So the F2 ability is going to be something to watch out for, and hopefully will be a fun new mechanic. With their traits, I'm very, very excited for the trait changes. Recently, I was thinking of doing like a worst video for Revenant, and specifically for the Herald, because I was just like, I wasn't really feeling the Herald lately. I actually, if you look at the trait line, the Grandmaster trait, the bottom one, it doesn't have a unique icon. It shares the icon of the minor trait. That it's like the very first trait you ever get, and it was just, they turned the hexagon and they just covered it with a square black border. And I hadn't noticed that for like 2 to 3 years. But I'm excited that one line is going to be more focused on healing and boon application. Second line should be focused on your facets. And then the third one is channeling for yourself. So there does seem to be some nice play here and potential for mixing and matching depending on what you want to go for. So overall, I'm really excited for the Herald because it just seems like, and I'm also really interested to see what else they change for the Revenant. And this should also be a general balance patch for other classes. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens. And I've noticed that they've been putting out balance patches much more frequently. And I know they've been doing it, but I thought they were kind of going to slow down after the last balance patch because I just got that feeling for some reason. But no, they're still going. Wow. And I also heard that they have consolidated and conjoined a bunch of the teams into one massive team known as the systems teams. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out and how quickly they can get out patches or balance or world versus world or PvP encounters and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm really, really glad that they are still putting out a lot of balance, even though it's not a lot. But honestly, these focused balance patches on like a specific profession are wonderful. And I've noticed that they've gone light, medium, heavy. Light with the Mesmer, medium with the Thief, and heavy with the Revenant. I would love it if they made a statement saying like, this is how it's gonna go, and just to give the community a pattern to follow, so we can probably theorize that if the pattern continues, Necromancer might be the next one up because Necro's QQ every day, and then maybe Engineer Scrapper because I think Ranger's in a pretty decent spot, and then maybe Guardian or Warrior because Revenant was the one that needed the most attention. But anyway, that's just conspiracies. But thank you everyone so much for watching. I'm excited to see what happens with the Herald next week. But other than that, subscribe for more Guild Wars 2 videos and other videos. Like the video if you liked it, and comment down below on these sneak peek shots, hints at the revamped Herald Specialization. And I'll see you everyone in the next video. Bye everyone! Down below, I have links to all things Guild Wars 2 for free-to-play players and expansion players alike. So if you or a loved one are interested in playing Guild Wars 2, check the links down below and begin your adventure in Tyria today. See you in game!